I'm Jasmine, 34 years old, and I'm the responsible one, the one who always pays the bills. My sister Nicole and her good-for-nothing husband moved back in with our parents and had the nerve to demand I cancel a huge project for my career to watch their kids so they could jet off to Miami. When I said no, my own father called me selfish and worthless. I just smiled and told him, "Oh, I'll take care of it." That night I made 2 phone calls. The first was to the power company to shut off the lights, and the second was to the bank to stop the mortgage payments I'd been secretly covering for 3 years. But before I go on, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been the only responsible one in a family of takers. All I wanted was to take my shoes off. That was it. I'm Jasmine. I'm 34, and I just spent 12 hours in a corporate boardroom closing a $200 million deal. I'm a vice president. I manage a team of 50 people. By any standard, I'm successful. But as I pulled into the driveway of my parents' big house in Dakar, all I felt was bone-tired. The house is a beautiful 2-story brick colonial sitting in one of Atlanta's most exclusive black neighborhoods. It's the kind of place that screams old money and black excellence. It was supposed to be my safe haven. The second I opened the front door, that fantasy was over. The entryway, which is normally spotless with its polished hardwood floors, looked like a war zone. There were expensive light-up sneakers tossed by the door right next to a pile of empty PR boxes for my sister Nicole. She's been a brand influencer for 3 years, which apparently just means getting free crap she can't afford while going deeper into debt. I stepped over something sticky on the floor and my heel got caught on a toy lightsaber. Nicole, her husband Brandon, and their 2 kids moved in a month ago after getting kicked out of their downtown loft. Just until we get back on our feet, they promised. I walked into the living room and my jaw clenched. This was my space, or it was supposed to be. I'm the one paying the mortgage. I pay the utility bills. I pay for the groceries. And yet my parents' living room, my living room, had been completely taken over. A professional microphone on a big boom arm with a pop filter, and everything was set up in the corner. 2 huge ring lights were propped up against the wall. Brandon was launching yet another one of his brilliant podcast ideas. His last big idea, a dropshipping business for beard oils, ended up costing my parents $20,000. Money I knew they absolutely did not have. The kids, 4 and 6 years old, were nowhere in sight, but the path of destruction they left was everywhere. There was crayon on the cream sofa and a half-eaten lollipop stuck right on the Persian rug. I let out a deep sigh, dropping my briefcase by the door. I've been living here for the last 3 years, ever since he begged me to help. I came back to save them, to be the dutiful daughter. But as I looked at all the chaos, I realized I wasn't a daughter to them. I was just the help. I headed for the kitchen, desperate for a glass of water, and just 5 minutes of silence before the real show started. Of course, I should have known I wouldn't even get that. I dropped my keys on the granite island and just breathed. Then I saw the mess of mail, Bill's junk, and a bright red envelope right on top, Georgia Power. My blood ran cold. Stamped across the front in all caps, past due. I grabbed it. My fingers felt numb. It wasn't just past due, it was a final notice. They were going to cut the power tomorrow. That's impossible. I handle all the money. I'm the one keeping this whole family afloat. I yanked out my phone and opened my banking app, checked the transfer history, and there it was. 5 days ago. A $4,000 transfer to my dad's account. It was labeled August Household Expenses. That was for the mortgage. The water, the gas, and this exact power bill. I felt that old cold anger rising in my throat. I just spent all day managing a $200 million project, and my family can't even pay a stupid bill with the money I gave them. Before I could even call my dad, my mom, Patricia, just waltzed into the kitchen. She didn't even look at me. Didn't see how tired I was. She just walked right over to the big fridge, yanked both doors open, and let out this big dramatic sigh. "Jasmine, you're finally home," she said, her voice just dripping with attitude. "This fridge is totally empty. There's nothing in here for dinner. Nicole's kids are hungry, and you couldn't even be bothered to grab some groceries." I just stared at her. I'm holding a disconnection notice in one hand, my phone with proof of a $4,000 transfer in the other, and she's complaining about groceries. The nerve. I looked at her perfect hair, then back at the red envelope, and just like that, it started to make sense. I held up the red envelope. "Groceries are one thing, Mom. This is a shut-off notice. They're cutting the power tomorrow." I kept my voice calm and steady, just like I do in the boardroom. I sent $4,000 to Dad's account on Monday. That money was for the mortgage and the bills. So where is it? My mom actually looked a little guilty. She wouldn't look at me. She just started messing with the grocery list on the counter. Well, you know, Jasmine, having 4 extra people here is expensive. The water bill was higher. The kids are always eating, and Brandon has to have his special coffee. Oh my God, Jasmine, are you serious? Nicole's voice cut in before I even saw her. She strolled into this kitchen, smelling like expensive perfume and wearing a silk outfit that probably cost more than my car payment. She looked like she was ready for a photo shoot, not like it was a Tuesday night at her parents' house. You've been home for 5 minutes and you're already bitching about money. It's just a power bill. Chill out. I turned to face my sister. The difference between us was a joke. I'm still in my gray business suit, dead tired from a 12-hour day. She's in this pink silk thing, not a single hair out of place. It's not just a power bill, Nicole, it's a shut-off notice. And this isn't even about the bill. It's about the $4,000 I gave Dad for the bills. It's been 5 days and it's all gone. I want to know where it went. I stared right at Mom. She wasn't getting out of this one. Her eyes darted over to Nicole, then to the floor, and then back to me. Well, she stammered, twisting the bottom of her apron. It was an emergency. An emergency. My mind was racing. Is one of the kids sick? Is something wrong with the car? No, nothing like that. Mom said quickly, wringing her hands. It's just Nicole needed some things. I looked over at Nicole. She was suddenly real busy checking out her perfect manicure. What things, Mom? What kind of emergency costs $4,000? Nicole needed new outfits, Mom finally blurted out, her voice getting high and defensive. She has that big networking thing in Miami this weekend. She's building her personal brand. She has to look the part, Jasmine. You can't build a brand if you look broke. I just stood there totally stunned. My $4,000, the money that keeps the lights on and water running, was spent on clothes for my unemployed sister's trip. Before I could even really process that betrayal, a new voice chimed in, a voice that always got on my last nerve. What's all the yelling about down here? I'm trying to record a podcast opener. Brandon, Nicole's husband, drifted down the stairs. He was 31, and in all the years he'd been with my sister, I'd never seen him wear anything but expensive gym clothes. He was a white guy who acted like he married into some royal family, with no clue he was just another mouth to feed. He walked over to the kitchen island, grabbed an apple, and took a loud, obnoxious bite. Listen, Jasmine, he said with that lazy, condescending tone he was so good at. You should be thankful you get to live in a house with a loving family like this. He waved his hand around the kitchen like he owned it. I mean, you're just a project manager, right? You shuffle papers. Nicole and I are creating a legacy. We're building a brand. Don't get so worked up over a few bucks. A few bucks. $4,000. My whole body went stiff. The absolute nerve of this man, this freeloader living off my parents, which meant he was living off me, was just unreal. He had the gall to put down my career. The career that was paying for the roof over his head and the apple in his hand. Those few bucks are my salary, Brandon, I said, my voice dangerously low. And I don't just live here. I slapped the red envelope down on the counter. I pay the bills, all of them. So I'm not just staying here, as you so nicely put it. Brandon just smirked, like he didn't care at all. He was used to my mom and sister always defending him. He took another bite of the apple. Oh, really? He challenged, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You don't own this house. You're just crashing at your parents' place, same as us. At least we have a family. What do you have, Jasmine, late nights at the office? Brandon's mocking words just hung in the air and they stung worse than a slap. Oh, really? You don't own this house. You're just crashing at your parents' place, same as us. At least we're a family. What do you have, Jasmine? Late nights at the office. Every head in the room turned. My mom, my sister, even Brandon. He looked so proud of himself for that cheap shot, but I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at my dad, Robert. He was just standing there in the doorway watching the whole thing happen. He was the man of the house. His word was law here. The guy I looked up to my whole life. The one I was secretly protecting. The man whose reputation I was paying $4,000 a month to save. Dad, I said, my voice just a whisper, are you really just going to stand there? Are you going to let him talk to me like that? This was my chance. This was when he was supposed to step up, to be a real father, to put this disrespectful bum in his place, to stick up for his own daughter, the one who was saving everything he'd built. My dad looked at me, and his eyes, which were usually so strong, just wavered. I saw something in them, maybe shame, or he was just uncomfortable. He shifted from one foot to the other. He couldn't even look at me. He looked over at my mom. He cleared his throat. I just held my breath, waiting. Patricia, he said. His voice was all business, like he didn't even hear what I asked. Did you call Reverend Johnson about that meeting? The one for the building fund. We can't be late tonight. Don't forget. And that was it. He was gone. He just turned his back on me, on the whole fight, and walked away. His silence said everything. He'd made his choice. To him, I was no different than them. I was just a guest here. Everything I'd done my sacrifice. It meant nothing. It was just some ugly truth they wanted to ignore. Brandon's smirk got even wider. He knew he'd won. He'd insulted me right to my face. And my own dad took his side by saying nothing. The world I thought I knew just fell apart. What my dad did was pure cowardice, but my mom's reaction, that was the final stab in the back. Patricia, who was just pretending to be all worried a second ago, suddenly lit up. She grabbed onto that change of subject like it was a life raft. Oh, that's right, Robert. Thanks for reminding me. She chirped, her voice all light and happy now. Reverend Johnson also wanted to talk about the silent auction for the fund. I've got to make a note of that. She rushed over to the junk drawer and pulled out a notepad and pen. Suddenly, she's this busy, important lady with a packed schedule. And just like that, the crisis was over. The awkward talk about money and bills was gone, replaced by something respectable like church business. My dad's silence was a betrayal, but my mom actively playing along. That was a declaration of war. She was happy to help him shut me out. She basically proved Brandon was right. I was just frozen standing there in my own kitchen. I looked at Brandon. He was finishing the last of his apple, with that same lazy, smug look on his face. He'd won. He called me a freeloader in the house I paid for, and my own parents basically agreed with him. You're just staying here. His words kept ringing in my ears. You don't own this house. And Robert and Patricia, the two people I was saving from going completely broke, had just proved him right. By not defending me, by not saying what was true, they chose the parasite over their own daughter. To them, I was just a guest, a long-term, inconvenient guest who happened to have a great paycheck. The kind of guest who was supposed to pay for their whole lifestyle, for their favorite kids' shopping trips and keep the lights on. And I was expected to be grateful for it. I just looked at the four of them. Robert was suddenly fascinated with the mail he'd ignored all night. Patricia was scribbling away in her notepad. Nicole was whispering and laughing with Brandon. For them, the tension was gone. She'd gotten her win. This was their family, a tight little circle built on secrets. It was all about appearances and what they thought they deserved. And I was the outsider, the provider, the ATM. That realization hit me, and it was so cold it numbed the hurt. It felt deeper than just being betrayed. It felt final. I was in every single way that mattered completely alone in this house. I just kept staring at my father. He wouldn't even look at me. He was staring at a spot on the wall, like it was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. The silence in the kitchen was suffocating. The only sounds were Patricia shuffling her notepad and Brandon's disgusting, satisfied chewing. My own father, the guy who demanded respect, just let his son-in-law, a man living off my money, call me a worthless freeloader in my own home, and he said nothing. My mind flashed back. I wasn't living here by choice. I wasn't here because I couldn't afford my own place. I was here because of a desperate phone call 3 years ago. It all came rushing back. It wasn't a sunny day like this one. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday in November. I was at my office just about to leave when my dad called. His voice sounded thick and weird. Jasmine, can you meet me? Please don't tell your mother. Meet me at Chastain Park. I need to talk to you. I drove there, my stomach in knots. I thought someone was sick or even worse. I found him sitting in his car, a fancy sedan I now know he couldn't afford. When I tapped on his window, he got out of his car and climbed into mine. It was so strange, it shocked me. And then my father, Robert, the proudest man I'd ever known, the former bank executive, just completely fell apart. He didn't just cry. He sobbed. He held his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking, and confessed the secret he'd been hiding for 6 months. He wasn't just retired, he was broke. I made some bad investments, Jasmine. He'd whispered, his face pale with shame. He hadn't just made bad investments. He'd taken his entire retirement fund, his whole pension, everything, and poured it into a crypto scam. It's all gone, he choked out, staring at the rain on my windshield. Everything. The 401k, the stocks. $500,000, Jasmine. It's gone. He looked at me, his eyes red and desperate. And God forgive me, I also lost the $20,000 I had set aside for Nicole's business fund. It's all gone. I just stared at him, the rain pounding on the roof of my car. Ruined. $500,000 just gone. But he wasn't done. The confession was just getting started. The bank. Jasmine, the bank is calling. He stammered, his tears mixing with the condensation on the car window. I took out a second mortgage against the house to fund the last investment. I was so sure I could win it all back. They're starting to foreclose. We're going to lose the house, baby. Your grandparents' house. It wasn't just a house. It was our family's legacy. It was proof that my grandparents made it the foundation of our family's name in this town. And he gambled it away. Your mother doesn't know, he begged, his voice cracking. She and Nicole, they'd be destroyed. This would humiliate us in front of everyone in front of the church. Jasmine, you're the only one who gets money. You're the responsible one. You've always been so capable. Please, you have to help me. You have to save our family's name. This from the man who always brushed off my career as just some office job. Now he was begging that same job to save him. The next memory is even clearer. I was 31 years old. I was sitting in a cold, sterile office talking to a bank manager. I had just been promoted to vice president of development. My first big paycheck from that promotion didn't go to a new car or a vacation. It went to a down payment. I was signing one paper after another, refinancing documents, a brand new mortgage application. The bank manager looked at me over his glasses. You understand, Miss Jasmine, that by co-signing this, you're equally responsible. In fact, given your father's credit situation, you're the main guarantor. The payments of $4,150 will be your responsibility. I remember my hands were steady as I signed the last page. I had agreed to make every single payment. I put my name on the deed. This is the secret they all chose to forget. This is the truth that made Brandon's insult so ridiculous. I wasn't just staying in my parents' house. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't a freeloader. My name was on the title. I was a co-owner. I was the only reason we still had that house. I was the one saving it month after painful month. Then I snapped back to the present. The kitchen was dead silent, thick with my father's betrayal. He was still pointedly looking away from me. He was studying the dining room wall like it held all the answers. My mother, Patricia, was nervously wiping down the already spotless granite countertop. They were a united front of denial. And into that suffocating tension, in waltzed my sister Nicole. She was completely unfazed by the fight. To her, it was over. Jasmine had been put in her place. And now it was Nicole's turn in the spotlight. She clapped her hands together, a loud fake sound that made me flinch. Well, she announced, her voice dripping with fake cheer, now that all that unpleasantness is over, let's talk about something exciting. She beamed at my parents, who turned to her with pathetic, obvious relief. Speaking of careers, she said, tossing her long braids back, Brandon and I have the most amazing news. Brandon strolled over, wrapped his arm around her waist, and pulled her against him. He still had that smug smirk on his face, that look of pure, unearned confidence. Nicole continued, her voice getting higher with excitement like she was announcing an Oscar win. My brand is just exploding. That agency I met with last week, they said my engagement is off the charts. So this weekend, Brandon and I are flying to Miami for the Global Social Media Summit. It's the networking event of the year. That's right, Brandon chimed in, puffing his chest out. It's a 4-day trip. We already booked the tickets. First class non-refundable. 'Cause you gotta look successful to be successful. He looked right at me like this was some lesson I, in my sensible work suit, desperately needed to learn. This is a huge deal. He kept going, talking to me like I was some investor instead of the person whose house he was in. My podcast on minimalist crypto investing is a finalist for the New Voice Award. This trip is where we lock down our Series A funding. This is where we stop playing small and start building the real legacy. Legacy. That word again. He's talking about legacy while standing in a house he doesn't pay for, insulting the woman who does. The nerve was unbelievable. My mother, though, just clasped her hands, totally delighted. Oh, Nicole, Brandon, that's just wonderful, isn't it, Robert? My father just grunted, still not even looking at me. Nicole was glowing. It is. It's everything we've been working for. She finally turned that bright, fake, shark-like smile on me. She thought I was beaten. She thought I was just the quiet, reliable spinster sister, the family ATM. And now she was about to make a withdrawal. My mother, Patricia, was practically buzzing with excitement. She rushed over and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Jasmine, honey, did you hear that? Isn't it just wonderful? Our Nicole is going to be a huge success, a real celebrity. Oh, Robert, I always knew she had it in her. She was looking at me, expecting me to join the party, a party for my $4,000, being blown on first-class tickets to Miami. Nicole just smiled, soaking up all the attention. Yes, Mom, it's going to be amazing, she said. Then she turned that bright, empty smile on me. So anyway, Jasmine, we'll be leaving Friday morning, she announced like she was just talking about the weather. Our flight is at 9 a.m., so we'll need to leave for the airport around 6. That means you're on kid duty starting then. I just stared at her. Kid duty. Yep, she went on, already pulling out her phone to check her calendar. The kids are so excited. I already told them their favorite Auntie Jasmine is going to take them to the Georgia Aquarium on Saturday, and then we promised them the big park with the splash pad on Sunday. So you'll need to make sure you clear your schedule for that. She didn't ask, she told me. She, the unemployed influencer living in a house I paid for, had just assigned me a vice president of development to be her free nanny for a 4-day weekend. She'd made promises to her kids for me, just assuming I had no life, no plans, no career of my own that could possibly get in the way of her trip to Miami. The casual, stunning entitlement of it all just sucked the air right out of my lungs. My father was still pretending to read the mail. My mother was nodding along like this was the most reasonable request in the world. They had all just watched me get insulted. And now they were scheduling my weekend without even bothering to ask. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a resource, a tool. Just like the power I paid for, I was just something to be used. I let the silence hang in the air for a second, letting her words just echo in the kitchen. She had just dictated my entire weekend to me. The entitlement was so complete, so pure, it was almost impressive. I looked from her expectant, smiling face to my mother's, who was nodding along, and then to my dad, who was still trying to be invisible. So I finally said something. I was so tired from my 12-hour day, my voice was low. I can't. Just like that, the smiles disappeared. Nicole just froze. Her happy face was replaced by a look of total disbelief. What do you mean you can't? I took a slow breath, trying to stay calm. I mean, I'm not available, Nicole. I can't babysit this weekend. This Saturday is the final safety inspection for the Midtown Tower project. I have to be there. I'm the VP managing it. I looked at my mom, then my dad, trying to make them realize how big a deal this was. This is a $200 million development. My name is on the line. I can't just clear my schedule because you booked a last-minute trip to Miami. Nicole's face twisted up, but it wasn't the slow crumble of sadness. It was the fast, angry, red-faced meltdown of a kid who just heard no for the very first time. What? She shrieked, her voice getting all high-pitched. You can't be serious. I already told Mom you'd do it. I told her it was all handled. She spun around to face Patricia, her hands balled up into fists. Mom, are you hearing this? Tell her she has to. She's doing it again. Patricia immediately started trying to smooth things over, rushing to Nicole's side. Now, honey, I'm sure Jasmine just doesn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I cut in, my voice flat. You made plans with my time and my money without asking me? And the answer is no. She is ruining everything, Nicole wailed, actually stomping her foot. My one chance, my one big break, and my selfish, jealous sister is trying to ruin it. Mom, do something. Make her do it. Nicole pointed a finger right at me, her face a mask of pure outrage. She wasn't just asking for a favor. She was demanding a sacrifice, and she was furious that I had the nerve to refuse. Patricia immediately stepped in, putting a protective arm around Nicole's shaking shoulders like she was the one being attacked. Jasmine, what is wrong with you? She said, her voice sharp and judgy. It's just the kids for a few days. Your sister needs this opportunity. This is her entire career on the line. I looked at her totally stunned. My career is also on the line. I have a major inspection. Oh, that inspection. Patricia cut me off, waving her hand like it was no big deal, like I was talking about a dentist appointment. You just call your boss. Tell them you have a family emergency. It's simple. They have other people who can look at a building. Your sister has no one else to help her. I couldn't believe she would so casually tell me to lie and risk my entire reputation for Nicole's glorified vacation. It was staggering. She saw my career, the one I had poured my whole adult life into, as nothing more than a roadblock to her favorite daughter's whims. Mom, you don't understand, I said, trying one last time. I can't just call in sick. This isn't my high school job at the mall. This is a $200 million project. I am the vice president of development. The investors, the city inspectors, the entire construction team, they're all meeting me there. My signature is required to move to the next phase. I was almost begging them to get it. I hoped the huge numbers my job title would finally make them get it. But Patricia just shook her head, her face locking into this look of stubborn disappointment. That's just noise, Jasmine. Words and titles. This is family. Your job can wait. Your sister's opportunity can't. You're being so unbelievably selfish, and I'm frankly shocked at your attitude. The second my no settled in the air, Nicole's whole face just twisted. That entitled confidence just vanished. All that was left was the pure, ugly rage of a spoiled kid. Her mouth dropped open, and her eyes got huge, not because she understood, but because she was offended. Then right on cue, the waterworks started. These weren't quiet, real tears. They were loud, dramatic sobs put on for a show. I knew it. She wailed, her voice echoing all over the kitchen. She pointed a shaky, manicured finger at me. I knew you would do this. You've always been jealous of me. I just stood there speechless. Jealous I'm the one paying her bills. You can't stand it, can you? She accused, the tears now just pouring down her face. You can't stand that I finally have something good happening for me. You have your big important job, your $200 million project. She said it like it was an insult. And you can't even let me have this one little thing. You want me to fail. You want me to be stuck here just like you. My mother, Patricia, immediately ran to her side, cooing and rubbing her back. Oh, my baby, don't cry. Don't cry. Jasmine, look what you've done. I hadn't done anything but tell them my schedule. But in this house, my facts were a personal attack. Nicole buried her face in my mother's shoulder, her sobs muffled, but still perfectly loud enough for me to hear. She's jealous, Mommy, she cried. She's jealous because I have Brandon and I have my babies. I have a family, a life. And what does she have? Nicole pulled her face back, a mask of tear-streaked, furious anger. She looked me up and down, her eyes filled with a cruelty I always knew was there. But I'd never seen it so plainly. She's 34 years old and she's alone. She comes home to an empty house every night. No husband, no kids, nothing but her stupid empty office. And now that I'm about to become someone, now that Brandon and I are building something, she can't handle it. She's trying to sabotage me. Patricia gasped, holding Nicole tighter as if she was protecting her from me, the monster. Oh, honey, that's not true, is it? She said that to Nicole, not to me. Don't let her upset you like this. Your sister doesn't mean it. My mother turned her back on me, physically shielding Nicole. She was comforting the golden child while making it clear I was the problem. I wasn't just selfish, I was jealous, bitter, and alone. And my mother, the woman whose financial survival depended on my empty life, was patting my sister's back and agreeing. My mother, Patricia, held Nicole close, letting my sister's fake sobs echo in the kitchen. She stroked Nicole's hair, glaring at me over her shoulder. Her eyes, which had been soft and worried just moments ago, were now sharp and cold as steel. Jasmine! She snapped, her voice cutting right through Nicole's crying. Look at what you've done. Just look at your sister. How can you be so incredibly selfish? I recoiled like she'd slapped me. Selfish, Mom, I just explained. I've got a $200 million project inspection. I don't want to hear about your project. She snapped, her voice getting louder. I'm talking about your family. Your sister. Do you have any idea what she's been going through? The pressure she's under? I was totally confused. What pressure she's living here for free? The pressure of building a life, Patricia shot back. The pressure of raising two beautiful kids, of trying to create a brand from scratch. Of having to move back in with her parents after that awful eviction. Your sister has been suffering, Jasmine. She's been humiliated. She and Brandon are working so hard to make something of themselves, and this Miami trip is their one big shot. She was actually making them out to be heroes, like victims. And you, she went on, her voice just dripping with disappointment, you have your big, important job. You have your own money. You don't have anyone to worry about but yourself. You come and go as you please. Your sister asks you for one little thing, one weekend, to help her secure her future. And you can't even do that. You won't even give up one weekend for her happiness. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sacrifice. She was asking me to make a sacrifice. Mom, it's not a small thing, I argued, my voice shaking. It's my job. The job that pays for... I stopped myself just in time. I couldn't expose my dad's secret. I couldn't tell them that my job was paying for this very house, for the food in the fridge, for the power that was about to get shut off because they had stolen the money. My mother saw me hesitate and took it as a weakness. She pounced. It's always your job, isn't it, Jasmine? It's always your excuse. You hide behind that work because you don't want to be part of this family. You never have. Nicole is right. You are jealous. You're jealous that she has a family, that she has Brandon. That she has a life, and all you have is your title. She was using my own words against me. My title of vice president. The one I'd worked my entire life to earn was now being painted as some sad, empty prize for my lonely life. You will call your boss, she ordered, her voice leaving no room for argument. You will tell them you have a family emergency and you will be here this weekend to take care of your nieces. Your sister has already suffered enough. She doesn't need you adding to it. Selfish. The word came out of me low and dangerous. You want to talk to me about being selfish? Patricia took a step back, surprised by my tone. Nicole stopped her fake crying, her eyes narrowing. I'm paying for this house. The words exploded out of me louder than I intended, echoing in the kitchen. The roof over your head, the mortgage that Dad couldn't pay. I'm paying for it. $4,150 every single month for 3 years. Brandon's smirk finally faltered. Nicole looked confused. But my parents looked terrified. I'm paying for the power, I shouted, jabbing my finger toward the red envelope on the counter. The power you were about to have cut off. I transferred $4,000 for that exact bill. And you took my money and gave it to Nicole to buy new outfits for her party in Miami. Jasmine, lower your voice, my father hissed finally, speaking. His eyes darting toward the open hallway, terrified a neighbor might hear. No, I will not lower my voice. I was shaking now, all the anger I'd held back for the last 3 years just pouring out. You just stand there and let this freeloader, I pointed at Brandon, who actually flinched, insult me. You let my own sister, who's living off my money, call me a jealous, lonely failure. And you, Mom, you tell me I'm selfish because I won't drop my career to be their free nanny. I looked at every one of them, my eyes burning. I'm sacrificing everything for this family. My time, my money, my own future, all to protect your secrets, Dad. All to keep up your perfect image, Mom. And you have the nerve to call me selfish. The room went dead silent. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator that I was paying for. Patricia and Robert looked at each other, their faces pale with panic. This was more than just me getting angry. This was the sound of the one person who held their secret, their total financial ruin finally snapping. They weren't just shocked that I was yelling. They were terrified of what I might say next. They were terrified I was about to tell Nicole and Brandon the whole devastating truth. The silence in the kitchen was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Nicole and Patricia were frozen, shocked by what I'd said. But it was Robert, my father, who finally moved. He pushed his chair back from the dining table, the legs scraping loud against the hardwood floor. He stood up to his full height. This was a man who was used to being in charge, and I had just challenged him in front of everyone, exposing the truth he'd worked so hard to hide. Enough, Jasmine. His voice wasn't just a shout. It was a roar, the voice he used in board meetings, the one that made grown men flinch. It was his I'm the father voice, and he was aiming it right at me, trying to shut me up to put me back in my place. That is enough, he repeated, walking into the kitchen. His face was dark with an anger I hadn't seen in years. I am sick and tired of this attitude, he spat, jabbing a finger in my direction. I'm sick of your negativity, of you always keeping score, of you coming into this house and holding things over our heads. I was stunned. Holding things, Dad. I'm paying for things. I'm paying for this house. And you think that gives you the right to disrespect your mother? He shot back, completely changing the subject. You think because you make good money, you can just look down on all of us? You think that paycheck makes you better than your sister, better than your family? He was twisting everything. He was a master at this. He was turning my sacrifice into arrogance. He was painting me as the villain, the rich, heartless daughter who used her money as a weapon. You think we're all just supposed to bow down and be grateful because Jasmine wrote a check, he sneered. I am still the head of this household, and I will not tolerate you speaking to your mother or your sister in that tone. Not while you are living under my roof. Under his roof. The roof I was paying for. The lie was so huge, so bold it almost made me laugh. He was cornered. He'd been exposed in front of his wife, his favorite daughter, and her useless husband. His secret was out. And instead of admitting the truth, instead of feeling any shame, he was choosing to attack. He was trying to shame me into backing down. It was the only move he had left. He wasn't done. His face was red, his authority was challenged, and he was doubling down. You stand there in your expensive suit. You act so high and mighty. But what do you really have, Jasmine? A title and an office. He just waved his hand at Nicole and Brandon, who were watching this whole mess like it was some kind of sick movie. You don't have what really counts. You don't have a family. You don't have a husband. You don't have kids. You don't get the pressure your sister's under, he boomed. She's trying to build a home. She's raising 2 children. She and Brandon are trying to build a brand, a future something for their family. That's real-world pressure, Jasmine. That's something you know absolutely nothing about. I just stared at him. He was actually defending them. He was making their mooching lifestyle sound like some noble burden. It's easy for you, he sneered. You don't have anyone to answer to but yourself. You go to your office, you come home, and that's it. You think you're making sacrifices. You don't even know what that word means. Nicole is sacrificing every single day for her children, for her marriage. She's sacrificing my money, I whispered. But he didn't hear me. She and Brandon are a team. He kept going. They're building something together. All you care about is yourself. All you care about is your job. You just waltz in here with your big paycheck and your cold attitude, and you judge everyone. You judge your mother. You judge your sister. You judge me. But you have no clue what it takes to hold a family together. You only know how to look out for yourself. It was the biggest insult he could have thrown at me. My whole life I'd been the responsible one. I was the one taking care of them. And now my father, the man I was secretly keeping out of foreclosure, was standing in the kitchen I paid for, telling me I was the selfish one because I'm single and childless. He had twisted my sacrifice into a character flaw, a weakness. My independence wasn't a strength. It was proof I was incomplete, that I was less than his other daughter, the one who had a family. My dad accusing me of only looking out for myself was so backward, so completely untrue that I couldn't even speak. I was taking care of all of them, and he knew it, but I was trapped by the secret I was keeping to protect his pride. Before I could find the words to fight back Brandon, my worthless, arrogant brother-in-law slid into the silence. He stepped forward, putting on this big, fake show of sympathy. He actually sighed and shook his head like my problems were some heavy, tragic burden for him to carry. "He's right, Jasmine," Brandon said, his voice dripping with that phony concern he always used right before asking for money. "Robert is absolutely right. We're not trying to attack you. We're just trying to make you see what's really going on. We're a family. We have to be honest with each other." He walked closer, looking at me like I was a broken toy he was offering to fix. "You don't have a personal life, Jasmine. Not a real one. You don't have a husband waiting at home. You don't have kids who need you. You don't have our kind of life." I just stared at him. The man whose last 6 startups I'd basically funded through my dad was lecturing me on my life. "Nicole and I," he continued, motioning between himself and my sister, who was now watching me with a smug look on her face. A teary-eyed, victorious look. "We're run ragged. I get it, you're building a brand. But we're also raising a family. That's a 24/7 job. That's real sacrifice. Something you wouldn't understand." Then he gave me this soft, condescending, infuriating smile. "So when we ask you to watch the kids for a weekend, it's not a punishment, it's an opportunity. It's a way for you to be involved." He leaned in a bit, dropping his voice to a stage whisper that everyone could still hear. "If you don't watch them, who will? I mean, you're the only one here with no attachments, no real responsibilities outside that office." Then came the final blow. "This is your contribution, Jasmine," he said, patting my arm. "This is your only real contribution to this family's happiness." I tuned him out. I tuned them all out. But Brandon's words, "your only real contribution," just hung in the air, echoing in the silence between us. It was the clearest thing anyone had ever said to me. All my work, my success, my title, my salary, none of it mattered to them. I was just the single aunt, the built-in babysitter, the spare part. My anger, which was boiling hot, suddenly turned to ice. It became something hard, sharp, and terrifyingly clear. I didn't look at Brandon. I didn't look at my mother, who was nodding right along with him. I didn't look at Nicole, who was smiling her victory complete. I looked straight at my father. He was the only one who mattered. He was the one who knew the truth. He was the one I had that secret toxic deal with. He was the one who cried in my car and begged me to save his honor. "Dad," I said. My voice wasn't shaking anymore. It was calm. It was the voice I use in the boardroom when a contractor is trying to lie to my face. I'm not talking about my feelings. I'm not talking about being jealous or selfish. I'm talking about a professional, legal, and financial obligation. I'm the vice president of KD Development. This Saturday at 7 a.m., I am legally required to be on site at the Midtown Tower project. It's a $200 million build. The city inspectors are meeting me. The investors are flying in to meet me. My entire team is scheduled to be there. This isn't a hobby. This is not something I can just reschedule. I held his gaze. I wasn't backing down. You know what I do. You know what's at stake. Are you asking me to sacrifice my entire career to breach my contract to maybe face legal action from investors so I can stay home and babysit Nicole's kids while she and Brandon go to a social media summit in Miami? I laid it all out. I used his language money, contracts, legal action. I gave him the chance to be the man he pretended to be. The smart, savvy businessman. My father, Robert, looked at me. I watched him process it. I saw the calculation in his eyes. He got my logic. He knew my points were valid. And he saw that Nicole, Patricia, and Brandon were all watching him. They were watching to see who really held the power in this house. He saw my direct challenge to his authority, and he knew if he backed down, if he admitted I was right, he would lose control of his perfect family story. He made his choice. His face hardened. The flash of shame I'd seen earlier was gone, replaced by pure, cold, fatherly authority. "I'm not asking you, Jasmine," he said, his voice low and final. "Look, I'm your father and this is my house. In this family comes first, not your projects, not meetings, and not your career." He took a step closer. "Your sister's opportunity is right now. Your buildings can wait. Your inspection can be moved. Tell your boss to send someone else. But Nicole only has one sister. You're the only aunt those kids have here. You're the oldest daughter. It's your duty to sacrifice. It's your job to give in to what your sister needs." He wasn't just taking their side, he was giving me an order. He was using the power I was paying to protect as a weapon against me. "So this is what you're going to do," he said, making it clear there was no room to argue. "You're going to your room. You're going to call your boss. You're going to tell them you have a family emergency that you can't get out of. You will be here Friday morning to watch those children. That is my decision. It's final. We're not discussing this anymore. End of story." The way he said it, end of story, just hung in the air, thick and poisonous. It wasn't a talk. It was a sentence. I just stood there, still clutching my briefcase, and I could feel everyone in that kitchen staring at me. They were waiting for the tears, waiting for me to beg to start some big ugly fight. They were waiting for me to break like I always did, so they could pretend to comfort me, brush me aside, and in the end, get exactly what they wanted. I looked at Nicole. Her face, which was all twisted up in a kid's tantrum, was now relaxing into a look of pure victory. She knew she'd won. I looked at Brandon. He had his arms crossed, leaning on the counter with that lazy, smug smirk on his face again. He looked like a guy who'd just won a bet. I looked at my mother. She was twisting her hands, her eyes pleading with me. Not for me, but at me, begging me to just give in, to be the peacemaker, to smooth over the fight that they started. And finally I looked at my father. He stood there like a statue, his face set like stone. He'd given his order. He'd picked a side. He chose the daughter who faked loving him over the daughter who actually saved them. He chose the lie over the truth. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just break. It turned to ice. The hurt, that hot, sharp, familiar pain of being misunderstood, of being worthless, of being invisible. It didn't just fade, it was gone. Like a sudden, cold snap that freezes a lake solid in a second. The boiling anger, the desperate need for them to just see me, all of it just stopped. The noise in my head went quiet. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I wasn't their sister. I wasn't the VP or their personal ATM or the family punching bag. I was just a woman in a room full of strangers. Strangers I'd been setting myself on fire for just to keep them warm. And I was done. I was so completely and totally done. The fight was over. Not because they won, but because I wasn't playing their game anymore. My face must have changed. The emotion must have just drained right out of me because I saw my father's expression flicker. He was confused. This wasn't the reaction he expected. I slowly unclenched my hands. I let my shoulders drop. I even let out a small, quiet sigh, like I'd been defeated. I looked at my father, but my eyes were blank, empty. "Okay," I said. My voice was flat, with zero emotion. Even I thought my voice sounded weird. They all flinched a little at how cold and dead it was. "I get it." I kept my eyes level. "You're right, Dad." I watched him relax. He was back in charge. "You're right," I said again, the words tasting like crap in my mouth. "Family comes first. I'll make the arrangements." The tension in the kitchen didn't just go away. It completely shattered. Nicole let out a high-pitched scream of pure happiness. "Oh my God, thank you. Jasmine, thank you, thank you." She ran over and gave me a hug. I didn't move. I didn't hug her back. I just stood there, like a cold statue, while she squeezed me. She didn't notice how still I was. "You won't regret this. This is going to change everything for us." "See," Brandon said, clapping his hands together. "Was that so hard? Family helping family, that's what it's all about. Patricia." My mother let out a shaky breath, her hand flying up to her chest. "Oh, thank goodness. I knew you'd do the right thing, honey. You always do. You're such a good daughter." My father Robert gave one single satisfied nod. The problem was solved. The man of the house was in control. The pecking order was set. "Good," he said simply. "That's settled then. Now, Patricia." "What about that meeting with the Reverend?" They all just turned away from me. The fight was over. Jasmine was handled. They went back into the dining room, their voices already happy and bright, talking about the church, talking about Miami, talking about Brandon's fantasy podcast. I stood alone in the kitchen. I looked down at the red power shutoff notice still on the counter. They thought I was arranging to cancel my inspection. I picked up my phone. I was going to make arrangements, all right. Just not the kind they were expecting. The next morning, the house was filled with this crazy celebratory energy. I woke up at 5 a.m. like always, but I didn't get ready for work. I just sat on the edge of my bed in the dark and listened. I could hear Nicole and Brandon already up in their room down the hall, their voices loud and excited. They were leaving for their Miami flight in just a few hours, but they had to get a full morning of last-minute shopping in first. By 7 a.m., they were downstairs, after leaving their 2 young kids in the living room with the TV blasting. I heard my mother Patricia cooing at them. Mommy and Daddy are just going to the mall to get some last-minute things for their very important trip. Nicole's voice was high and giddy. She was on the phone, probably with one of her influencer friends. Oh my God, yes! The hotel on South Beach is fabulous. Brandon booked the suite with the oceanfront balcony. We have to get content at the infinity pool. I know, right? My sister Jasmine is watching the kids. We finally had to lay down the law with her. But she's being surprisingly cool about it. I guess she realized she owed us. I slowly got dressed, putting on my best suit, a charcoal gray sharp blazer and pants. My armor. I did my makeup perfectly. When I walked downstairs, the 4 of them, Mom, Dad, Nicole, and Brandon, were all in the kitchen. Nicole and Brandon were dressed for their shopping spree holding empty suitcases. My parents were beaming at them. I walked in and the talking stopped. Well, good morning, Jasmine, Brandon said, his voice all generous now that he'd won. Glad to see you're up. The kids need to eat soon. I just ignored him and looked straight at my parents. Morning, I said, my voice totally calm. I just wanted to let you know I've taken care of everything. My mom's face just flooded with relief. Oh, Jasmine, honey, that's great. I knew you'd do the right thing. My father, Robert, just gave a satisfied nod. Good, he said, like that settled it. See, Patricia, all it took was a firm hand. She knows what she's supposed to do now. Yeah, I said, my face giving nothing away. I called my boss, Mr. Henderson, first thing this morning. I told him I have an urgent family emergency that I can't get out of. It needs my full attention. Nicole clapped. See? Was that so hard? I explained that my family needed me and that my sister's job opportunity was a priority. He got it. I took a 4-day leave, so I'll be here to watch the kids. That's my girl, my dad said, actually smiling at me for what felt like the first time in years. That's the kind of loyalty this family is built on. You made the right call, Jasmine. Your project can wait. Well, I need to go to the office for a couple hours, I said, grabbing my briefcase. I just have to give my team my files and make sure everything's covered before my leave officially starts. Of course, dear, of course, my mom said, rushing to the door to see me off. You go do that. Don't worry about us. We'll see you this afternoon. Nicole and Brandon were already walking to their car, laughing about what store to go to first. My dad went back to his newspaper. The family crisis was over. He was in charge again. I walked out the front door into the bright sun. I got in my car. I put on my sunglasses. I didn't drive to my office. I drove straight downtown to Harris Vaughn and Associates. My lawyer was waiting. I didn't drive to the office. I didn't drive to the Midtown Tower. I didn't go anywhere near the $200 million project that was my entire career. Instead, I drove downtown. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. My dad's last words, end of story, kept playing in my head. He was right. It was the end of a story. The one where I played the good, quiet daughter who always did what she was told. The story where I basically set myself on fire to keep them warm. I parked in the garage under a shiny glass tower, a building that had nothing to do with my dad's world. I took the elevator up to the 45th floor. The doors opened into a quiet, simple waiting room. Harris Vaughn and Associates. My personal business lawyer, Miles, was waiting for me. He was a sharp guy in his 50s. He handled all the contracts for my secret company. He looked at me, and I couldn't tell what he was thinking. Jasmine, you look like you've made up your mind. Are they ready? I asked, cutting him off. They are, he said, pointing me into a conference room. But Jasmine, I have to ask you one last time. This isn't just setting a boundary. This is cutting them off completely. Are you absolutely sure you want to go through with this? There's no going back from this. I looked right at him. Last night, my family made me the unpaid nanny. They told me the only way I could make them happy was to throw away my career, so my sister could go to Miami. They said that standing right in the house I'm paying for in front of the fridge I stock. I picked up the heavy pen. I'm not just certain, Miles. I'm free. I sat down and started signing the stack of papers he had ready. These were the documents putting all my main assets into a trust they couldn't touch. Papers that legally cut off my finances from any of their claims, and the last one, the one he'd prepared for me 3 years ago on my request. The one I prayed I'd never need. I pushed the signed stack back to him. It's done. It's done, he confirmed, stacking them neatly. I stood up and pulled out my phone. I dialed the first number on my list. Good morning. This is Jasmine Robert. I need to schedule an executive move. Yes. Today. I've got a very specific window of time. It'll be from the residence on file. It needs to be discreet and fast. I need everything from the upstairs southeast bedroom. Yes, everything. The furniture, the art, the electronics. It's all my personal property. It needs to be moved to the new address you have on file. The penthouse in Midtown. I'll be on site to let you in. I listened for a moment. Excellent. I'll give you the go-ahead when the house is empty. I left the lawyer's office and drove back to my parents' neighborhood. I parked down the street under an old oak tree where I had a clear view of the driveway. I waited. At 10:15 a.m., just like I knew they would, my father's black Mercedes pulled out of the garage. My mother was in the passenger seat. They were probably going to the grocery store to get snacks for Nicole's kids, the same snacks I was supposed to be serving them. The moment the car turned the corner, I sent a text to the moving company. You're clear. The window is open. You have 90 minutes. 10 minutes later, a sleek, unmarked moving truck pulled up to the house. I let them in the front door. Upstairs southeast corner. Everything goes, I said. The team was fast. They were pros. This wasn't a standard move. This was an extraction. They didn't just pack my clothes. They brought wardrobe boxes. They carefully wrapped the original artwork I had bought for my room. They bubble-wrapped my high-end computer system, my monitors, my files. They expertly took apart my expensive mid-century modern bed frame, my desk, my nightstands, all pieces I had bought with my own money. All pieces that looked brand new next to the dated furniture in the rest of the house. In 45 minutes, my room was empty. It was stripped down to the bare walls and the beige carpet. It looked like a cheap motel room, a sterile box with no personality. No life, no me. I walked through it one last time. This was the room I came back to 3 years ago to save them. Now it was just a shell. An hour later, I was standing in my new home, a huge penthouse on the 52nd floor. The movers were reassembling my furniture, putting my desk exactly where I wanted it, right in front of a floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the Atlanta skyline. And right in the center of that skyline, gleaming in the midday sun, was the steel frame of my $200 million Midtown Tower project. I looked at my real life, my real home, my real job. I picked up my phone. The movers were done. The lawyer was done. Okay, it was time to make the real calls. I was sitting in a big leather chair in my lawyer Miles's conference room, looking down at Atlanta. The whole city was spread out 45 floors below me. I was still buzzing from getting all my stuff out of there. My new penthouse was getting filled with my furniture, with my life. The physical part was over. Now the real games began. Miles, my lawyer, sat across from me. He had a neat stack of papers I'd just signed sitting on the mahogany table. The movers are clear and on their way to the new place, he said, checking his watch. Are you ready for the next part? Jasmine. This is where it gets so quiet you can hear a pin drop. I just nodded, pulled out my phone, and put it on the table. I put it on speaker. I'm ready, Humshing, I said. I've been ready for 3 years. I dialed the first number. Georgia Power. I flew through the automated menu like I was on a mission. 1 for English, 4 for billing, 2 to cancel my service. I knew it by heart. After a short hold, a friendly voice came on. Thank you for calling Georgia Power. This is Tamika. How can I help you today? Hi, Tamika. I said, my voice totally steady. My name is Jasmine Robert, and I need to cancel all services for my account effective today. Oh, I'm sorry to hear you're leaving us, ma'am. Can I get the service address? I gave her my parents' address, the house I just escaped. Okay, I see the account right here, Tamika said, and I could hear her typing. Looks like you've been a Gold Star customer for a long time. This account is in perfect shape. Are you moving? We can just transfer your service to the new place. No, I said. I'm not transferring. I've already moved. I need to schedule a disconnection for that address. Alrighty, she said, still cheerful. The next day we can do a non-emergency shutoff is next Tuesday. I'm afraid that's not going to work, I cut in my voice, polite but firm. I need an emergency disconnection. I need all services shut off by midnight tonight. Tamika paused. An emergency shutoff? Ma'am, that's usually for things like a fire or a gas leak. Is there a safety problem at the property? Yes, I said there is. I'm the only person on this account. My name is on the bill. As of right now, I'm not paying for that property or the people in it. I can't guarantee you'll get paid for any service after today. That's the safety issue. Please disconnect the power and the gas. The happy tone in her voice disappeared. It was replaced by someone who was all business. I see. Yes, ma'am. If you're leaving a property and you're the only one on the hook for the bill, we can do that. I can schedule the shutoff for tonight between 10 p.m. and midnight. Your final bill will be adjusted and sent to the new address we have for you. That's right, I said. The penthouse in Midtown. Thanks for your help, Tamika. I hung up the phone. Miles raised an eyebrow. One down. That was the easy one. I took a drink of water. He was right. Now for the call I was really dreading. I dialed the number for Xfinity. After 6 painful minutes of dealing with their automated voice recognition hell, I finally hit the 0 key enough times to talk to a human. Hi, this is Mark in customer retention. The guy sounded way too upbeat. I see you're calling about your platinum bundle. Did you know you're eligible for a free upgrade to Mark? I cut him off. I'd had enough. I'm canceling my contract effective immediately. Whoa, hold on, he said, dropping the sales act completely. I'm really sorry to hear that. We value you as a customer. It says here you've been with us for years. Is something wrong with the service? I can offer you a 30% discount for the next 6 months just for being so loyal. There's nothing wrong with the service, Mark. I'm moving. I'm not transferring the service. I'm canceling it. But ma'am, I see you're still on a promotional contract. He said, his tone changing. Canceling early means you'll get hit with a big cancellation fee of $250. Are you sure you want to do that? I can waive that fee if we just transfer. Yes, I'm sure, I said. Charge the $250 to my card and cancel the service today. Well, ma'am, that's not really how it works. Our billing cycle ends on the 30th. I can schedule the disconnection for that date, but I can't just flip a switch. Mark, I said, my voice getting low. Let me be very clear. My name is the only one on this account. I am canceling my service now. If the service isn't shut off by midnight tonight, I'm calling my bank to stop all future payments, and I'm filing a formal complaint with the FCC. I'm also recording this call for my own records. There was a long pause on his end, then the sound of frantic typing. I understand, he finally said, his voice totally flat. One moment, ma'am. Okay, I've processed your request. The internet cable and home phone at 1245 Pinewood Drive will be disconnected as of midnight tonight. Your final bill, including the early cancellation fee, will be sent to the address on file. Thank you, Mark, I said. You've been very helpful. I hung up and looked at Miles. He nodded, a small grim smile on his face. Phase 2 complete, he said. Now for the bank. I took a deep breath. This was the last call, the final string to cut. Miles slid a glass of water toward me. This is the one that matters, Jasmine. This is the one that really starts the clock. I know, I said. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the bank's mortgage department. It wasn't the general helpline. It was the direct line to the portfolio management department, a number I knew by heart. After punching in my account number and security code, I got through. Atlanta First National Mortgage Portfolio Division. This is Mr. Davis. How can I help you with your account today? His voice was professional and cold. I matched his tone. Hello, Mr. Davis. My name is Jasmine Robert. I'm calling about mortgage account number 88472B. The property is at 1245 Pinewood Drive. Yes, Ms. Robert, I have your account right here. I see your automatic payment is scheduled for the first of the month as usual. Is there an issue with the payment? I paused, taking a breath. There is. I am calling to officially inform you that I, as the primary guarantor and co-signer, will be stopping all future payments on this mortgage effective immediately. There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. I heard typing. I'm sorry, Ms. Robert. Wait, you're telling me you're stopping the payments. This is a huge loan, and you're the main guarantor. If you default, there will be serious legal and financial consequences. I'm well aware of the consequences. Mr. Davis, I said, my voice cold as ice. I get that it's going into default. I'm telling the bank to send all collection calls, default notices, and any future debt to the other co-signer on this loan. The other co-signer, he stammered, obviously pulling up the file. That would be, Mr. Robert. Your father. That's right, I said. Mr. Robert. Same last name, same address. Send everything to him and only him from now on. I'm officially washing my hands of this property. Miss Robert, I have to warn you, as a co-signer, you're still legally on the hook for this. Stopping payments will start the foreclosure on the house, and it will absolutely wreck your credit score. I get it, I snapped, cutting him off. I know exactly what's going to happen. Just do what I told you. Send all the notices to Mr. Robert. Thanks for your time. I hung up before he could say another word. I put my phone face down on the table. That was it. The house wasn't my problem anymore. The power, the gas, the internet, the mortgage, I'd cut every single money tie I had to them. Miles just stared at me. He didn't say anything for a whole minute. Well, he finally said with a sound of grim respect in his voice. The clock's ticking now. Phase 3 is done. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away, Nicole and Brandon were raising their champagne glasses in the first-class lounge at the Atlanta airport. Nicole angled her phone, pouting her lips for the perfect selfie with the Delta Sky Club logo showing right over her shoulder. Brandon leaned in, kissing her cheek, just as she snapped the picture. "Hold on, let me get one more," she said. "I need the light to make the diamond on my new bracelet sparkle." "Babe, you look amazing," Brandon said, sipping his champagne. "This is it. This weekend is going to change everything. That podcast award is in the bag." Nicole was already typing away on her phone, getting the perfect caption ready. "Off to Miami, big things are coming for the brand. So, blessed and grateful for a family that really supports our hustle. Time to network. #power couple, #boss moves, #Miami bound." She hit post and watched the likes start pouring in. "That should do it," she sighed, taking a little sip. "God, I'm so glad to be out of that house. Jasmine was being such a drag." Brandon scoffed. "Tell me about it. My $200 million project." He copied her in a high, whiny voice. "Who does she think she is? She's just some bitter single woman who pushes papers around. We're the ones with the vision." "I know, right?" Nicole agreed. "Anyway, I can't wait to get to this hotel. The infinity pool is going to be epic for my content, and Jasmine's just stuck at home changing diapers. That's all she's good for." "To us," Brandon said, raising his glass, "and to Jasmine for finally knowing her place." They clinked their glasses again, having no idea what was coming. Back at the house, the 10 o'clock news was just finishing up. Robert, my father, was half asleep in his favorite leather chair, the blue light of the giant flat-screen TV flickering on his face. My mom, Patricia, was on the couch, glued to some auction site on her iPad with a glass of wine right next to her. The AC was humming, keeping that sticky Atlanta heat out. It looked like a perfect, quiet night in their fancy house. And then just like that, everything went dead. Click. The TV didn't just fade out. It snapped off, and the huge living room went pitch black in a second. The AC slowly whirred down into total silence. The clock on the cable box went dark. Then from the kitchen, the quiet hum of their fancy fridge just stopped. The only sound was my mom's pissed-off gasp. "Robert, what happened?" "Did you sit on the remote again?" "I didn't touch anything," my dad grunted, already sounding annoyed. He was fumbling in the dark, and I heard his recliner slam shut. "It's got to be a power outage. Probably a summer storm." "Patricia, where's the flashlight? It's supposed to be in the junk drawer." "My iPad just died." My mom sounded more irritated than scared. "And the Wi-Fi, Robert, the Wi-Fi is gone. I was right in the middle of a bid on that antique sideboard." "It closes in 10 minutes. Patricia, if the power is out, the Wi-Fi is out." Robert snapped. His patience was already shot. "That's how it works. Stop worrying about your damn furniture and find the flashlight." He got up, his knees popping in the silence. He walked over to the front window and pulled back the heavy curtains. "That's weird," he said, his voice low. "What?" "What's weird?" Patricia asked, now messing with her phone, using the screen as a light. "The Johnson's house across the street, all their lights are on," Robert said. "And the Parker's house next door. And the street lights are still working. It's just us. The whole block has power. It's just our house that's dark." "What?" "That's impossible," Patricia said, her voice getting sharp. "You must have tripped a breaker, Robert." "You were just complaining about that new coffee maker Jasmine bought." "I didn't trip anything," he said, his annoyance boiling over into anger. This was a personal attack on his territory. He stomped into the hall, yanked open the utility closet, and felt around for the breaker box. He found the main switch and flipped it. Hard. Off then, on. Nothing. He flipped it again. Off. On. Still nothing. The house was dead quiet, dark like a tomb. The only light was from my mom's phone. "Robert, what is going on?" You could finally hear the panic in her voice. "Why is our house the only one dark? Call the power company. This is ridiculous. Jasmine just paid that bill." "I was standing right there when she sent the money." "I know," Robert grumbled. "It's probably just the transformer for our house." "I'll go check the main box outside. This is the last thing I need tonight." My father, Robert, cursed under his breath. He grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer, the one I knew had dead batteries, and cursed again when it just gave a weak flicker. He ended up just using the light on his phone. "It must be the main box by the garage." "I'll reset it. Don't touch anything." Patricia just stood there in the dark living room, her face lit by the glow of her phone. Well, hurry up, Robert, she snapped. My bid for that antique sideboard closes in 8 minutes. This is just typical. The one night I need the internet. I'm going, Patricia, he yelled back from the hallway. I saw him storm out the front door and disappear around the side of the house. Through the window, I could see his phone light bouncing around. I heard the metal clank of the breaker box opening. A second later, I heard him yell again, but his voice was muffled. Patricia, is it back on? No, she yelled back, panicking, as she tapped at her dead iPad. It's still dark. Nothing's working. Did you flip the main switch? Yes, I flipped the main switch. His voice sounded closer now. He was walking back to the front door, and his heavy footsteps were pounding on the porch. He was mad. The breaker's fine. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. He came back into the dark foyer looking totally confused. And that's not even the weird part. What? What's weird? Patricia asked, her voice getting higher with panic. The neighbors, he said, pointing out the front window. Look, the Johnson's house across the street is lit up like a Christmas tree. The Parker's house next door has power. The whole street has power. Patricia, it's just us. A totally different kind of chill filled the room. This wasn't a storm. This wasn't a transformer. This was something else. That's impossible, Patricia whispered. That makes no sense. Call them. Call Georgia Power right now, Robert. Tell them to fix this. This is ridiculous. You call them, he snapped. My phone's on 5%. Patricia's hands were shaking as she fumbled around with her own phone. She was trying to get through the automated system, getting more and more frustrated. Agent. I need to speak to an agent. This is an emergency. She finally got a person and put the call on speaker. Yes, hello. I need to report an outage. My power is completely out, but all my neighbors have it. Our address is 145 Pinewood Drive. We waited in the dark while the agent typed. Ma'am, the agent's voice crackled. We're not showing any outages or faults in your area. But I'm telling you, Patricia insisted, our house is the only one that's dark. You need to send a truck out here immediately. Ma'am, I can't send a truck because there's no service issue, the agent said politely. I'm looking at the account for 1245 Pinewood Drive, and it was scheduled for termination today. Termination, Robert said again, grabbing for the phone. What are you talking about? Who terminated it? Let me talk to them. Sir, the agent went on, the request was processed at 9:15 this morning. It was an emergency cancellation from the primary account holder. All services, electricity, gas, and water were shut off starting at 10 p.m. tonight, as requested by a Ms. Jasmine Robert. The agent's words, as requested by a Ms. Jasmine Robert, hit the dark room like a punch to the gut. For a full 10 seconds, neither of my parents said anything. They just stared at each other in the dark, lit up only by their 2 phone flashlights. Jasmine. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't a mistake. This was on purpose. This was deliberate. She wouldn't, Patricia whispered, her voice trembling. She wouldn't do this to us. Robert, that's impossible. Tell them they're wrong. But my father, Robert, was already moving. He wasn't listening to Patricia. He snatched the phone from her, jabbing his thumb at the screen, pulling up my contact info. Jasmine, he barked into the phone. You pick up this phone. You pick it up right now. Do you hear me? He put it on speaker. We all listened as it rang. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound was way too loud in the dead silent house. Then a click. Hi, you've reached Jasmine. I'm unavailable right now. Please leave a message. She's not answering, he yelled, like I was ignoring him on purpose and not already on a plane to my new life. She's not picking up her phone. He dialed again. Same thing. Ring, 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 then voicemail. What is she doing? Patricia started crying, her panic turning into sobs. She can't do this. The kids' food is going to spoil Robert. My phone's dying. We don't have any lights. I know that Patricia... Robert shouted, holding his own phone now. He was pacing back and forth, the light from his phone making crazy circles in the dark. I'll call her again. She has to answer. His words were cut off by a sharp ping from his own phone. A new text message lit up his screen. He stopped dialing and put his face right up to the phone to read it. His whole body went stiff. What? Patricia whispered. What is it? Robert didn't answer. He just stared at the screen and I could tell his breath caught in his throat. Robert, you're scaring me. What is it? He slowly read the message out loud. His voice was hollow. All the anger was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp dread. Alert from Atlanta First National Bank, he read. We're letting you know that the monthly mortgage payment of $4,150 for account 8472B is now past due. Please make a payment immediately to avoid default. He looked up from his phone, his eyes finding Patricia's in the dark. She didn't understand. not yet. The mortgage, he whispered. She didn't just cut the power, Patricia. She stopped paying the mortgage I told her to pay. He dialed my number again. This time when it went to voicemail, he didn't hang up. Jasmine, he roared. His voice was cracking with a mix of terror and pure rage. What in the hell do you think you're doing? You're destroying this family. You call me back. You call me back right now, or so help me God, you will regret this. You are done. Do you hear me? You're done, my father. Robert was still breathing hard, clutching his phone after leaving that furious and terrified voicemail. The only light in the pitch-black room came from their phone screens, casting wild shadows on their faces. She has to call back, Patricia whispered, her voice shaking. Hey, she can't just... Robert, what did that bank message mean? What did she do? Before my dad could answer, his phone chimed, a new message. And at that exact same moment, Patricia's phone chimed too. Buzz. 2,000 meters away, in a bright, noisy first-class lounge in Miami, Nicole's phone, plugged into a charger, also lit up with the same notification. Buzz, and so did Brandon's. It was a new message in the Robert Family Fun group chat. The chat I hadn't said a word in for weeks. My father opened it, his hands shaking. He read the words out loud in a raspy, stunned whisper. Hello, family. He paused, swallowing hard. Since it was made clear to me last night that I am just staying at the house, I've decided to no longer stay. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. A little gasp choked out. Robert kept reading, his voice shaky. As of today, I've moved out. I've also cut off all the utilities in my name. That means the power, gas, water, and internet are all getting shut off. Oh my God, Patricia whispered, slumping onto the sofa arm. Robert, she actually did this. Wait, Robert said, his eyes flying over the rest of the message. There's more. Oh, and by the way, Dad, I also told Atlanta. First National Bank, I'm not paying the $4,150 mortgage payment anymore. Since you're the main co-signer, I'm sure they'll be calling you soon to figure out how you're going to cover it. The phone fell from Robert's hand, hitting the hardwood floor with a clatter. Patricia just stared into the dark like she didn't even hear it. But the message wasn't done. Robert scrambled to grab the phone, his face looking ghostly in its light. Good luck with all the bills. Have a great time in Miami, Nicole. The check-in desk at the Miami Airport Hotel was bright and crazy, nothing like the quiet first-class lounge they'd just left. Nicole, acting like a big-shot influencer, strolled up to the counter. Brandon followed behind, dragging a mountain of their designer bags. Checking in, Nicole told the clerk, not even looking up from her phone. The reservation's under Thornton. It should be the Ocean View Suite. Welcome to Miami, Ms. Thornton, the clerk said with a fake smile. I've got your reservation right here. I just need a credit card for any extra charges. Yeah, of course, Nicole said. She pulled a platinum card from her wallet and slid it over like she'd done it 1,000,000 times. It was her dad's card, the one he kept for emergencies, and apparently for her brand-building trips. The clerk swiped it and frowned. He tried it again. The little machine made a loud, angry beep. I'm sorry, ma'am, the clerk said, his smile getting tight. This card was declined. Nicole's head shot up from her phone. What? No way. Run it again. Your machine's broken. I've run it twice, ma'am, the clerk said, clearly getting annoyed. It's declined. Do you have another way to pay? This is ridiculous, Nicole snapped, her face turning red. Brandon could tell things were going bad, so he stepped up and gave the clerk his card. Try this one. The clerk swiped it and got the same angry beep. Declined. What the hell is going on? Brandon muttered. Robert must have put a fraud alert on the cards. Nicole was furious and totally embarrassed as the line behind them got longer. She stormed away from the counter. She dialed her dad's number and put it on speaker. Dad, she yelled when he answered. The credit card isn't working. The hotel's declining everything you need to call the bank right now and fix this. We're stranded here. But the voice that answered wasn't her dad's usual calm, in-control voice. It was a total panic, a ragged scream almost drowned out by an echo and the sound of him gasping for air. Robert's voice was a distorted roar. The credit card, he roared. Are you crazy? You think I have time to worry about your damn hotel? Nicole flinched away from the phone. Dad, what's wrong? Why are you yelling? Your sister, that's what's wrong, he screamed back. They could hear Patricia crying her eyes out in the background. Your selfish, spiteful sister just shut off the power. She cut the gas too. We're just sitting here in the dark, Nicole. She stopped paying the mortgage. We're gonna lose this house. We're ruined. Nicole and Brandon just stared at the phone, totally frozen. The clerk and the people in line were now straight up staring at them. What are you talking about? Nicole stammered. Jasmine, she moved out. She cut everything off, Robert screamed. She's not paying for a single thing anymore, so you can forget your hotel, Nicole. You can forget your whole networking trip. You're cut off. We're all cut off. Nicole was still trying to argue with the hotel clerk, her voice getting louder and totally hysterical. Find a manager. I demand you find a manager. Brandon was desperately trying to get his own bank on the phone. Back in Decatur, Patricia was crying in the dark while Robert just stood there frozen. The bank's text message was glowing on his screen like a final judgment, and then all four of their phones chimed again at the exact same time. Another message from Jasmine in the Robert Family Fun group chat. In Miami, Nicole looked at her phone annoyed. What does she want now? In Decatur. Robert picked up his phone, his hand shaking. He read the new message out loud. His voice was just flat dead. Oh, and one last thing, Dad, he read. You were right last night. My job is just about buildings. I just wanted to clarify which buildings. Patricia looked up, her face streaked with tears, completely confused. What is she talking about? Robert's eyes scanned the next line. His face, already pale, went completely white, like all the blood had just drained from his body. My company, KD Development. That's Jasmine Robert Development, by the way. Just finalized the contracts for the new 80-story mixed-use tower in Midtown. As the president and founder, I'm going to be pretty busy managing that $200 million project for the next few years. So I'm afraid I have to formally turn down any future babysitting requests. The reality of it all just hit them. The VP title wasn't just some job she had. It was a company she owned. The company she had built while they made fun of her. The company she had built while she was paying their mortgage. Robert read the last line, his voice barely a whisper. I'm sure you all understand. Please do not contact me again. The message was delivered. In Miami, Nicole and Brandon just stared at the phone. The words 80-story and president were ringing in their ears. In Decatur, Robert and Patricia sat in the dark in the house she'd just taken away from them. They were finally understanding who they had just ruined their lives to cross. They hadn't just underestimated her. They didn't even know who she really was. Their phones were still glowing in their silent hands. In Miami, Nicole and Brandon were staring at the words 80-story and president. The happy music in the hotel lobby completely faded into the background. In Decatur, Robert and Patricia were sitting in the thick, humid darkness of their house with no power. The reality of Jasmine's secret life was crashing down on them. Robert's mind was racing, trying to piece it all together. Jasmine KD Development. 200 million, 80 stories. His daughter, the one he had just kicked out. Patricia was the first to speak, her voice a thin, shaky whisper. Robert, what does this mean? What are we going to do? The mortgage. She wasn't bluffing. The bank really did send that text. Before Robert could even think of what to say, their phones went off again. A final text came through. Robert's hands were shaking so bad he couldn't even read it. Patricia leaned over his shoulder, her voice trembling as she read it out loud. And Dad, since you're going to need a new place to live, I'd suggest you start looking right away. The bank's starting the official foreclosure on Monday. I wish you all the best of luck. Nicole, seeing the text in Miami, just made a choke sound. Lose the house. Is she really going to let them lose the house? She's bluffing, Brandon whispered. Brandon, but his own face was pale. She wouldn't do that to her own parents. Then the last message appeared. The one that made it clear this wasn't a bluff. This was a plan. This was the end. Okisha's new text said, but don't worry too much about the property. As I'm sure you know, it's in a wonderful neighborhood. A perfect spot. Really, my company KD Development is always looking to pick up properties in good areas. Robert felt his heart just stop. He knew what was coming next. We're very interested in the Pinewood Drive property, the text continued. We'll be looking forward to grabbing it at a big discount at the foreclosure auction. Thank you for taking such good care of my future asset. And that was it. That was the final blow. This wasn't just about cutting them off. It wasn't just about letting them fail. This was a corporate takeover of their whole lives. She wasn't just walking away, she was circling back for the kill. She was using the same business smarts they always mocked to buy the family legacy right out from under them. She was 3 steps ahead the entire time. They thought they were playing checkers. She was playing chess, and she just said checkmate. I stood in my penthouse on the 52nd floor. Atlanta glittered below me like a carpet of diamonds. My new home. The one I earned, the one they knew nothing about. My phone was still glowing in my hand, open to the Robert Family Fund group chat. I read my last message one more time. We'll be looking forward to grabbing it at a big discount at the foreclosure auction. I took a slow sip of Cabernet Sauvignon. The wine was rich and smooth. I could just picture their faces, my father's shock, my mother's horror, Nicole's complete disbelief. They thought I was their emergency fund. They thought I was their maid, their nanny. They never realized I was their bank, and I had just foreclosed on them. I looked at the group chat name, Robert Family Fun. I laughed. It was a short, dry sound. I held my thumb over the screen and went to the group settings. Block this group. A confirmation popped up. Are you sure? I didn't hesitate. I pressed the button. It was done. I turned my phone face down on the marble counter. I walked back to the window, took another sip of wine, and watched the city I was helping to build. 2,000 miles away under the harsh fluorescent lights of a Miami airport hotel, Nicole was crying. Not the fake, manipulative tears she always used on my parents. These were real, ugly, hysterical sobs. What do you mean your card is declined? 2, she shrieked at Brandon. I mean, it's declined, he snapped back, throwing his own wallet on the floor. The account is tied to your father's. It's all frozen. You got us stranded here, Nicole, your stupid brand. Your stupid tripped me, she screamed. This whole podcast thing was your idea. You're worthless. They were just a couple of broke, spoiled kids, finally getting that the Bank of Jasmine was closed for good. And back in Dakar in the cold, black silence of the house I used to pay for my parents were just sitting on the floor. Their phones were finally dead. They were all alone in the dark. The only light came from a weak, flickering flashlight Patricia dug up. It cast long, creepy shadows on their faces. They looked old. They looked small. They looked terrified. My father Robert just stared at a blank wall, the reality of his failure finally crashing down on him. He hadn't just lost his retirement. He'd lost his house. He'd lost his daughter. He'd lost every last bit of his dignity. He had backed the wrong child. He put all his money on the golden child. And in doing that, he destroyed the only person holding their entire world together. I finished my wine and put the glass down. As I looked out at the city lights, my phone buzzed on the counter, but it wasn't the family chat I'd blocked. It was a new call, a new name. It was Daniel, the head architect on the new Midtown project, a man I'd been quietly seeing for 2 months, a man who actually respected my mind and valued my time. I picked up the phone. A real genuine smile spread across my face for the first time all night. Hey, Daniel, I said, my voice warm. I was just thinking about you. I turned my back on that old view and looked toward the future. My new life was just beginning. Jasmine's story is a huge lesson in knowing your own worth. It teaches all of us that loyalty and responsibility can't just be a one-way street. For years, she burned herself out to keep her family comfortable, and they just disrespected and used her. Her family didn't see her sacrifices. They only saw a wallet they could drain. This story shows that real freedom doesn't come from being seen by people who refuse to get you. It comes from taking back your power, setting hard boundaries, and knowing that no isn't selfish. It's an act of survival. Your value is what you say. It is not what you can do for others. Ask yourself, where in my life am I only valued for what I can provide,